It's a very exciting year for the UAE on many levels, and most notably with the introduction of the IFAD, the ICE Futures Abu Dhabi Exchange in March. And so it's our next two guests that are playing a critical role in that. Mr. Khaled Salmeen, Executive Director of Marketing, Supply and Trading from Adnoc. Khaled, if you wouldn't mind, please opening your camera and your microphone. And Mr. Stuart Williams, President, ICE Futures Europe Intercontinental Exchange. Thank you, Stuart and Khaled, for joining us today and sort of getting on to the outlook for this important development this year. Khaled, perhaps we can kick off with you on this question. This has been a big journey, obviously, to get to this point. There's no doubt, and this sort of trophy is just in the distance now in March. I suppose the overarching question ultimately is, given the perseverance through a COVID pandemic, through regulations and all sorts of great challenges, what is so attractive about the prospect of a Merban futures contract for Adnoc?
Well, thank you, Sean. And first of all, I would like to wish all of you a happy and a safe 2021. And I hope we are less virtual as we go through this year. But for the time being, I think this is the wise thing to do. So please continue to take care.
Thank you.
Merban obviously has been at the heart of Adnoc since its inception back in 1958. So it's been a while. And it continues to be our flagship crude. It is a crude that is well known to our customers, and it is very diversified in multiple ways and multiple dimensions. One, it has multiple customers across all of Asia. It has multiple ownership, i.e. Merban's ownership is in the hand of multiple producers under Adnoc onshore as a part of the JV, which sell it into the market through literally 7 different companies. So it's not controlled by one company, i.e. Adnoc, but actually Total, BP, Chinese, as well as South Korea and so on. So we have multiple ownership and liquidity, physical liquidity coming into the market through that. And I think the prospect of a Merban futures contract is really exciting because, one, given these elements, it allows the market to have a market-driven pricing for a special grade, such as Merban being a light crude that is mostly towards Asia. It allows that flexibility to our customers to make sure that they manage their risk. And we believe that it also gives better attractiveness to our ever-changing landscape. So generally, we believe it is the right move. It is becoming more customer-centric, and it gives the suite of activities and tools for our customers, our partners, to move away from the retroactive pricing that was experienced for a long period. And now that we are in the forward pricing, to be fully market-driven forward pricing with all the bells and whistles. So we're really, really excited about it. And I hope that everyone actually supports it.
And Khaled, just as a quick follow-up, ultimately, what does it deliver to Adnoc that the current or previous pricing structure or the market pricing references that were available did not do? What is it for Adnoc? Obviously, we can see for the markets and for your partners, but for Adnoc, ultimately, what is the driving value incentive?
We believe we are a part of a value chain. And Merban is one crude out of a basket of crudes that every refiner in the world ends up having to make a selection on a monthly basis, quarterly basis on what they want. So for us, it is important to make sure that we do not, we actually enable this crude to continue to be competitive in the market. And to do so, we need to give it the tools that will allow it to be as competitive. The retroactive pricing mechanism comes with some major disadvantages. We are away from that era. Yet at the same time, it gave for a very long time the stability and the market position and the trust. So I think now that we have 50 years on our belt in Adnoc, the relationship with our customers, that trust relationship that is there, is moving into a new era as we transform into a market-driven pricing mechanism. And for us, it's all about getting our partners who have invested significant amount of money with us, who believe in Abu Dhabi and Adnoc. To us, this is actually the main value addition. That is the secret sauce, if you say, about is the fact that we're able to work with partners in our upstream, downstream to deliver value. And to do so, we believe that a market-driven price enables us to be much more transparent to the market and our partners on how this very important commodity is priced.
Thank you. Stuart Williams, welcome, President, ICE Futures Europe. This all sort of rests on your shoulders in a way. We all have our wish list. You're Santa Claus. How will the contracts ultimately provide the transparency and arbitrage that the market's looking for?
Thank you, Sean, and appreciate the opportunity to join, and just to add my Happy New Year to everybody. Thankfully, Sean, this doesn't rest entirely on my shoulders. We've got some very strong partners that we've pulled together. And so really this is about, and markets are about bringing the best of various people's strengths to the table. So we're bringing together the Merban grade and Adnoc strength in the market that Khaled has just been talking about, the strength of our partners. We're bringing the global distribution of the ICE network, capital efficiencies of a clearing house that clears all of our global oil franchise, together with a financial community that's active on the ICE platform already. So there are a number of shoulders involved here, Sean, which I'm very grateful for. But to your question, of course, futures markets are by design the most democratized and accessible market structure. And so what we're doing here is we're bringing this grade of Merban, this physical grade that's used by such a broad range of physical players in Asia. We're putting that alongside the globally distributed benchmarks that we already host on the ICE platform. And that'll effectively put Merban pricing on the desktop of every oil trader that's currently using the ICE platform, which is a very powerful proposition. And so in terms of transparency, by their nature, futures markets are transparent. Putting that alongside the ICE distribution network, it means that the distribution of that transparency is going to be significant. And I think from if we look back over 2020, one of the lessons that was reinforced to all of us was the importance of the ability to access real-time pricing for risk management and executable liquidity as markets are moving about. And so that's what we're looking to bring to the table with this launch.
Stuart, in terms of the journey, obviously we just mentioned with Khaled the big journey that has been made. I remember when we were all together launching this in November 2019 at ADIPEC. Seems like multiple lifetimes ago for multiple different reasons than this. But nonetheless, it's been a big journey. Where are we at exactly with the vis-a-vis of the regulatory approvals and all of the plumbing, if you like, that goes into setting up the new exchange, the new contract?
Yeah, Sean, I think when we were sitting together last in I think it was November of 2019, there's no ways we would have foreseen the events of this year. But notwithstanding all of that's been going on this year, we've made very good progress, particularly on the regulatory front, across the board. But on the regulatory front, we've now received approval from the Bank of England in the UK, which is a big milestone, and we're very excited about that. We've also received the approval from the Monetary Authority of Singapore. So that means that's also done. And of course, these go alongside a number of the approvals we received last year that we've announced. So that includes Abu Dhabi Global Markets, the US, Switzerland, and we've also completed the relevant analysis for other jurisdictions like the Netherlands, France, Norway, Australia, Japan, South Korea. So the number of jurisdictions that people will be able to access ICE Futures Abu Dhabi and the Merban contract from day one is growing. And we've got all of these other major jurisdictions now added in. So very good progress made there. In respect of everything else, from a technology perspective, we're ready to go. The distribution network, as I referred to earlier, from an ICE perspective, Adding Merban to that is ready to go. And now we're working very closely with the clearing community that will manage the positions at the clearinghouse and the trading community as well. And we've seen a lot of interest from both of those communities and good progress being made on that. So everything's lining up well for that launch at the end of March.
Well, congratulations on that. Those approvals, very obviously the biggest steps, I suppose. Khaled, that leads to the ultimate question, I suppose. And what does success look like, do you think, or as a measure against the ability to attract liquidity? We can get all the approvals, we can get the market open, but what do you think success looks like from a liquidity perspective, and particularly from an Asia adoption?
Yeah, and I think this is really the heart of the discussion, right? So liquidity and depth of curve and are the real KPIs on this. I think from a perspective of what we need to do, I think we have all the key success ingredients. So we have, the 11 partners, including all continents, all different communities. Asia is represented, trading communities represented, IOCs are represented. Obviously, the equity holders are all represented. And we have, at the same time, a lot of our customers. So a lot of our customers are already been engaged through this whole process. That continues to ramp up as we go in Q1. We have the right exchange, that being a credible exchange, being with ICE. We have the technology and the distribution network that Stuart was referring to earlier. At the same time, this is a commodity in Merban that has multiple owners. So it is not owned by Adnoc alone, but it's owned by 7 partners that have their own lifting rights and they sell their own product. Yet at the same time, there are multiple buyers. So it's not going to one destination. It's very diverse in its adoption across all of Asia. And it has an excellent infrastructure to deliver the physical contract or the physical quantities with a lot of redundancies that was audited and given the highest standards of compliance and tolerance management. So from that perspective, I believe that we have all the key ingredients to have success. Obviously, we've also had multiple MOUs signed and were announced both from producers and traders that would be participating, helping in pricing, using the Merban futures contract in delivering crude of similar qualities to Asia. So I think all in all, we have the right ingredients. What is the right EDV? It's anybody's guess, but definitely having an ability to have the right level of liquidity to be able to get in and out seamlessly, allowing it for physical and non-physical players and allowing for all of that transparency is going to be key. And it is at the center of our focus to make sure that as we go to the world's launch, that all of that as a part of our communication plan is covered.
Stuart, one of the sort of interesting changes in the world as a whole inevitably is energy exports out of the US, oil and gas into Asia, into Europe as well on the LNG side. ICE has signed contracts with Chevron, Trafigura, and Occidental to price Merban crudes as a benchmark for US crude moving into Asia. I'm just wondering, how do you think that move highlights the importance of the US in terms of the crude market?
Yeah, well, there's no question that the US producers have become an important part of the global crude market. The minister early on was talking about the same thing. And we are seeing across the board discussions on what is the right pricing mechanism for US exports, and particularly, again, highlighted through some of the events of 2020.
And typically, just for the audience point of view, the WTI is historically the benchmark reference for US crude because inevitably it's been a landlocked oil, but in recent years, of course, it's become a major exporter. And it's up for grabs as to how that's going to be priced.
That's correct. And what we see is that once crude hits the water in the US Gulf Coast, it prices with reference to the Brent complex or to an instrument that's related to Brent. And so again, from a strategic perspective, putting Merban alongside the Brent complex, putting Merban in in an exchange and a clearing infrastructure that provides the offsets against the Brent complex makes that a really viable pricing alternative for crude that gets exported from the US Gulf Coast into Asia. So, again, and I think the other point to make on this one is that from a quality perspective, Merban, compared with other Asian grades, or with other Middle Eastern grades going to Asia, is closer in quality to Brent and to WTI. So from a pricing perspective, if one thinks about how you manage the arbs between the various locations and what instruments you use to manage that, we do see Merban as being an attractive instrument, not just for those Middle Eastern exports to Asia, but indeed for crude moving from the US Gulf Coast out to Asia. So that was the logic behind speaking with those US exporters, and we'll continue to speak to them about how we make that happen. I think, again, all of those guys are active, and many other US producers are active on the ICE platform, and getting them involved in the activity on that contract will all contribute to what we were talking about earlier about building the liquidity and the global usefulness of this as a price marker.
And just on that, Stuart, just from a point of view of the specific, we're still on target for the end of March. What do you just remind the audience the specific dates, etc.?
That's correct. So the exchange and Merban futures, of course, with it will launch on the 29th of March. So that's a Monday. The Merban contract will track the same trading hours and trading calendar as the other global benchmarks. So when Brent or TI are open, Merban will be open. So it'll start trading on a Monday morning at the 29th.
Thank you. Khaled, just in wrapping up, of course, this is not the only thing you're doing. In the midst of all of this, you're also just launched Adnoc Global Trading, which is another obviously part of your jigsaw puzzle. Can you just tell us a little bit about that, how the first few months have gone, and how does these pieces fit into the wider Adnoc strategy in terms of that idea of chasing the last dollar that's in the barrel in terms of the efficiency?
I think, and it all stems from the transformation that His Excellency Dr. Sultan has led over the last 5 years, right? So that transformation is about transforming how we do business, how we are commercially driven and customer-centric. And to me, the move into trading, obviously we launched Adnoc Trading, our crude book, as well as Adnoc Global Trading, which is our products, both in 2020 under really difficult conditions, but gladly that we were able to pull that through. And I think what it does, it offers actually our customers a lot more optionalities, pricing optionalities, services, being financing services, financial structuring or structured finance, or even just pricing mechanisms and hedging and so on. So
and of course, the financial ecosystem that has to wrap around that.
Absolutely. So it's not really only about getting more dollar. Obviously, that will always be every commercially driven entity's point of view, is to stretch the value from every barrel that we produce, that we refine, that we sell, that ship, and we trade. And we continue to do that. But doing that has to be with real value. And that is really the perception here, is how can you create multiple value for our customer using these tools? And I believe that continues to be our focus now. How does that change the business? Personally, I think it actually enhances the relationship, because today we're offering our existing customers pricing options of things that we couldn't do only months ago. And that only strengthens the relationships, even within our own value chain, given the partnerships that we have. So truly, all in all, I believe it's the great move for us. It's going well, and I look forward to how it contributes in 2021.
Well, if you see how big a factor it played in the performance of the international energy companies last year, the trading units were critical to supporting their progress through that very difficult pandemic. So I'm sure it'll bring great value added for Adnoc and your partners. Thank you very much, Khaled, Salmeen, Stuart Williams. Thank you very much for your participation from London.